This is verse 18 of the 21st chapter of the Gospel of John. We are in the conversation in which Jesus has asked Peter 3 times if Peter loves Jesus, and of course we've commonly seen that as a reinstatement of Peter to his not only apostolic role, but even a leadership role among the apostles, notwithstanding his prior denial of even knowing Christ. And of course all of this in some ways was essential to Peter actually assuming that role. He had to be drained of every sense of self-confidence in order to utterly submit himself to the authority of Christ. And that's probably something of what's being suggested here. So we have Amen, Amen, which Jesus, of course, will use as a prefix to some weighty statement. Lego means I say, first person singular. Present active indicative, the indirect object, and the dative singular of the second person pronoun. So amen, or verily, or truly I say to you. Hote, this is a conjunction. It means when. Ace, from ami, I am, second person singular, imperfect active indicative. So when you were. Neoteros, this is from a root neos, which means young or new. Actually, the word new is actually the sense of it, but applied here in the masculine singular nominative, applying back to Peter, it commonly means when you were young, or before, of course, you came under the influences of my ministry. You had a certain kind of life, certain kind of independence, which Jesus describes here. So edzo nu ace. This means to gird something or put a belt around it, to cinch it up is the notion. This is the second person singular imperfect active indicative. So you were girding, by the idea seauton, the reflexive pronoun. You were girding yourself. Kai periapates. This is from peripateo, which means to walk. This again is in the imperfect, second person singular imperfect active indicative. So it's describing a way of life. You were girding yourself, you were walking, hopu, wherever, whatever you wanted to do, a conjunction. Atheles, from theo, I wish or I want. This again is the second person singular imperfect active indicative. So all of this is in the imperfect, suggesting a kind of way of life. This is the way you were. And it seems that the real description here is simply of Peter before the advent of Christ into his life. Hotan, when it's the alpha nu there incorporates the use of aeon, contracted into it, which gives rise to the subjunctive, and so that's what we have, the postpositive da. But whenever would be the idea geirases. This is from geirasko. Our word geriatric comes from this. It means to be old. The simple sense of it would be I am old. This is in the subjunctive. It's the second person singular aorist active subjunctive. So when now you are old. And then ektenes. This is from ekteno. It means to stretch out your hands, something like that. This is the second person singular future active indicative. You will stretch out, toss, the accusative feminine plural, toss kairos, the hands, the possessive pronoun here, second person su. So you will stretch out the hands of you. So now when you are older, you will stretch out your hands, and allos, another. Allos is a pronoun, another. Se, the accusative second person pronoun, zose, and another will gird you. It's the very same word as we have here, but now it's in the future. So third person singular future active indicative will gird you. Kai ose, this happens to be the future of Pharaoh, to carry. Third person singular future active indicative will carry or bear you. Hopu, where, conjunction. U, the negation, theles. Same word here, you do not want to go. Some have, of course, tied this to the crucifixion of Peter that presumably happened, at least based on the tradition of the church. It doesn't quite make sense in the context because it says you will stretch out your hands and another will gird you and take you where you don't want to go. Well, it doesn't quite make sense to say you stretch out your hands as in being crucified, and then another girds you, it ties you up, usually in connection with clothing, that sort of idea. It's possible, and certainly there's conversation about that both ways, but more likely the sense of this is that Peter, as a younger man, had been his own agent. He'd done what he'd wanted, gone where he desired, but now under the authority of Christ, he is completely at the command of another. He stretches out his hands, he girds himself not to do what he wants, but to do what another is wanting, even if it leads him in directions that he would prefer not to go on his own volition. It's an idea that there may be more to it than that, but the general idea seems to be that we have a distinction between Peter as he used to be and Peter as he's going to be, carrying out the responsibilities to Messiah, especially in his leadership role now, as has been just suggested in the preceding verses.